This is look at the Sichas Chelik Yud Zayin, the first Sich at the Parshas Bechukosai. Since this week is two Parshas, so in the project look at the Sichas, the two Sichas are the first Sicha for Bahar and the first Sicha from Bechukosai from Chelik Yud Zayin. So we're going to start now. In Ascholas Parshas Seinu, in the beginning of Parshas Bechukosai, is Rasha Maitik from Posik in Bechukosai Telecho. Rasha quotes from the Posik these words, Im Bechukosai Telecho. The Posik, the way the Posik says, Im Bechukosai Telecho, Mitzvahs Tishmeru, Asisa Meisom, that if you will go on my chukim and you will keep my mitzvahs, the Posik continues, when the Satik Yishmeichem Beitam, Hashem says, I will give you the rain, etc., etc. So from that Posik, Rasha quotes just the words, and we know what the words that Rasha quotes from the Posik are important to the Pirush that Rasha says. So Rasha quotes these three words, Im Bechukosai Telecho. When this Mefarish explains, Yochel Zakim mitzvahs, I would think it means if you will keep the mitzvahs. But then since he continues in the Posik and it says, and you will keep my mitzvahs, Harekim mitzvahs omor. So keeping the mitzvahs is already set separately in the next few words. So how do we explain if you will go on my chukim? It means something else, Rasha says. You should toil in Torah, toil in learning Torah. The Rebbe says the Mokeh from the Pirush Rasha is Torah scanning. The Mokeh, the source is Torah scanning. But since Rasha, in his Pirush and Chumash, which is Pshute Shel Mikra, bringt von Drosha Zazal nor dort was is do a hechek der in Pshute Shel Ksuvim keduma kabepomim, that when Rasha brings anything that's mentioned in the Chazal, he only brings it if it's negeya to the simple pshat. Muss man sagen, also der Pirush von Torah scanning, was Rasha bringt do, is muchrach and pashtus avodas hakosel. So we have to say that what Rasha brings here, which the source is Torah scanning, is because, not because the Torah scanning says it, is because it must be that from the simple pshat in the posik, you come to a conclusion that this must be the pshat. Der Mitte sich moving, for was Rasha darf to bring in the ganze Ariches. This approach explains why Rasha has to go in that length and start off by saying Yochel Zakim mitzvahs kishemer. I would think keeping mitzvahs. But since already says later we know it's not. Why does Rasha have to do that? Und sich nicht mistapik mit dem Etzem Pirush as im Bechukosai Telecho meint Amiel LEVIN. If Rasha wants to tell us Bechukosai Telecho means learning Torah, so why does Rasha start off? You might think it means doing mitzvahs, but I tell you it can't mean because the Torah says mitzvah separately. Must mean Torah. Why did Rasha have to do that? Why didn't Rasha go straight to the point? Im Bechukosai Telecho means you should learn Torah. What the reason is, for them to give on a sinna smokim so on them, and then if Rasha would just say straight that Bechukosai Telecho means learn Torah, there would be a possibility to think Adosi der Posher the Taish from Bechukosai Telecho, that the simple meaning of Bechukosai Telecho means learning, toiling and learning Torah. Und das ist nicht durchgehalten. That's not true. Weil der Taish from Bechukosai b'derach klal is mitzvahs. Usually when it says Bechukosai, it means mitzvahs. The Rebbe muss Rasha Magdim like that's what Rasha has to tell you, that when I'm going to tell you that it means learning Torah, you shouldn't think that this is the simple Taich. That's why he has to start with the Agdama. Yochel, I would think the Eshter Svari is Ados Mit Kima Mitzvahs. The first thing it would be if you learn the Posik Bechukosai Pshat. And again, it's all based on what the Rebbe started saying. Rasha is only Pshat. So Rasha and the Torah Skenim says a Pshat, but Rasha is not because it says in Torah Skenim. Rasha said because this is the Pshat of the Posik. So Rasha has to tell, don't make a mistake in Pshat and Posik that the word Bechukosai means Torah. If Rasha would say, Bechukosai means learning Torah, Horev and toiling in Torah, you would think as a Pshat. So Rasha has to make sure that don't make that mistake. Bechukosai Telecho does not mean, the word normally does not mean Torah. It means doing mitzvahs. Rasha, in this case, it means different because the word keeping mitzvahs is written further in the Posik. Is from them muchach that proves that the Friedrike werte in Bechukosai Telecho meinen nicht kima mitzvahs nor Amiel LEVIN proves that in this case it's an exception, that the words Bechukosai Telecho cannot mean the way it normally means doing mitzvahs. It means Torah because doing mitzvahs is written separately. So we understand why Rasha has to come up with a havamin like you might think, because he wants to make sure that you don't make a mistake in Pshat, that this is the meaning of the simple meaning of the words. So he says you would think that, but I'm telling you, in this case, it's not like that. Says aber nicht movement. What's not understood is like this. Number one, Rashi vavornt as dois b'chukeisa nit mitzvahs nor Torah. What's Rashi trying to tell us? One thing that here you might think like you always think b'chukeisa means mitzvahs. The Rashi wants to tell you that in this case it's not. It means Torah. But the Gedaft might have in posik im b'chukeisa. So Rashi just should have quoted from the posik just the words im b'chukeisa. The word telechu is not important. He's just translating b'chukeisa. Umafader zayin, quote the word im b'chukeisa and explain. Yochel ilu ha-mitzvahs, I would think it's mitzvahs. And he has to tell us what you would think. You should know that that's the normal pshat of the pasuk. Kishoemer ves mitzvahsai tishmeru ves mitzvahsai. But then when the Torah says ves mitzvahsai, had the mitzvahs amurid. The mitzvahs are said not more, not more. In other words, Rashi doesn't have to quote from the pasuk the word teilechu. And then when Rashi says that it can't be mitzvahs because it says already mitzvahsai, so Rashi also just could have quoted the word ves mitzvahsai. Didn't have to quote it mitzvahsai tishmeru. And nitmer, and not all. That's all Rashi should have said. I want you to know, Bechukosai here does not. You might think it means mitzvahs. Bechukosai here does not mean mitzvahs. Now the Rebbe says it not to say anything. I'm just not sure. Bechura, even if it would say it so short, Bechura it should have to say. But what does it mean? Rashi could have just said Bechukosai. You might think mitzvahs does not mean mitzvahs. That's all. But he would have to say. But what does it mean? Unless the Rebbe feels that if it would say that, we'd know what else can it mean. About it means Torah. Why does Rashi have to even tell us that? Or maybe that Rashi should say, but in the beginning he wouldn't have to say the word b'chukosai, el telecha, I mean just b'chukosai. And then when he says, I would think it means mitzvahs, he wouldn't have to say the word kiyum mitzvahs. B'chukosai, you would think means Torah, mitzvahs. I'm telling you, it means not, doesn't mean that because it says already. But so exactly how the kasha is, but definitely Rashi is saying extra words which he didn't have to say. The second kasha is the kasha vet noch starker. The kasha is stronger. In Teiras Ken imoke pirish Rashi. In Teiras Ken, which is the source of Rashi. Shteitake. It says the yochel ilu ha-mitzvahs. Doesn't say I would think it's kiyum ha-mitzvahs. It's mitzvahs. When Rashi is mishanim them loshon shayt kiyum ha-mitzvahs. And Rashi changes from the Teiras Ken. He says I would think it's kiyum ha-mitzvahs. Why is it in the gay? He's only trying to say the translation of the word b'chukosai here means Torah, not mitzvahs. You should have said I would think it's mitzvahs. But it can't mean mitzvahs. Why does Rashi also say the word kiyum mitzvahs? Number three, Rashi is trying to tell us something else. Not only the meaning of the word b'chukosai, something in kiyum mitzvahs, something in the doing of mitzvahs. That it means Amiel LEVIN. That what it says here, doing the mitzvahs, I would think it's doing the mitzvahs. It says no, it's not the doing of the mitzvahs. It's horeven in Torah. Something that Rashi wants to tell. That's why he kvetches the word that it's kiyum mitzvahs, and then he says, what does it mean? Amiel LEVIN. Something is not just trying to tell us the translation of the word b'chukosai and the word mitzvahsai. That mitzvahsai means mitzvahs, b'chukosai here means something else, means Torah. He's trying to tell us that you would think it's kiyum mitzvahs, and I'm telling you it's Amiel LEVIN. That's the nekudah. From the words. It's a mitzvah tishmeru hot man blaze the raya b'chukosai meit mit mitzvahs. And the fact that the Torah says mitzvah tishmeru, we know that b'chukosai does not mean mitzvahs, nor Torah means Torah. From one end is there a hechrach as it's meant Amiel LEVIN. How does Rashi take it means Amiel? Because you see Rashi is trying to tell you it's not just kiyum mitzvahs, it's Amiel LEVIN. It's not just not mitzvahs but Torah. In that gufa, not just kiyum but Amiel. How do you know? What does it say? All we know is that it can't mean mitzvahs because mitzvahs are written separately. So it must mean Torah. Finished. Learning Torah. How do you know it means Amiel LEVIN? Fourth kasha. If it's mitzvah tishmeru, then on the words, next piece of Rashi, on the words mitzvah tishmeru that you will keep the mitzvahs, is Rashi mafarish. Rashi says, what does it mean we shall keep the mitzvahs? Have Amiel LEVIN am nas lishmer l'kayim. That it goes behemshach to the beginning. Means you should work in Torah. So the pasuk continues that when you learn Torah, it should be in order to do the mitzvahs. Which seems to be saying that mitzvah tishmeru does not mean to tell you to keep mitzvahs. Wait, Rashi learns. It's telling you, when I told you to work in Torah, it's in order to mitzvah tishmeru that you should keep mitzvahs. L'chure, the Rebbe asks, this is contradicting what Rashi said before. Rashi said before, Rashi says, means Torah. How do you know? Because mitzvahs are written later. It says, let's mitzvahs atishmeru. So Rashi says, clearly, mitzvahs atishmeru means telling you keep mitzvahs. As mitzvahs atishmeru means kiyam mitzvahs. It's actually telling you keep the mitzvahs. Und nicht a prat in von limud atera, so sein amanas, not it's this part in Teira. Rashi says that mitzvahs atishmeru means you should keep mitzvahs. And all of a sudden, Rashi says, no, it's not telling you to keep mitzvahs. Mitzvahs atishmeru means the Bechukosai you should learn Teira, harder in the Teira, work hard in Teira in order to keep the mitzvahs. Isn't this a contradiction? First, Rashi said that mitzvahs atishmeru means you should keep the mitzvahs, and here he says no. It means learn Teira in order to keep the mitzvahs. The Virentem's explanation is like this. Talmud Teira is eine von der Teriyag mitzvahs. Learning Teira is a mitzvah, one of the 630 mitzvahs. And with the Berchomish Mikra based us, how does it check? The Rebbe always says that Rashi is written even as a child of 5 years that just starts learning Chumash could understand. But then not everything he knows. Or Rashi tells him, or Rashi said before. How does he know that it's one of the mitzvahs? How does a child know when he learns Pasha Bechukosai? Where does he know from before that this is one of the mitzvahs? So the Rebbe says he knows it. Von dem was if lima dat Teira macht jeder früh morgen die Brocha sheket shonim mitzvah. When in the morning before you learn Teira, in the birchas in the brochas you say asheket shonim mitzvah. You commanded us with the mitzvahs and we continue. Al divrei Teira or al nusach lasik with divrei Teira. So he says every day that this is a mitzvah. Well, the Pisa is verstandig for was mit Fathers am Bechukosai teleicha mit lima dat Teira. So that's now we understand why Rashi couldn't say that Bechukosai teleicha means Pasha sitting and learning Teira. Kasha was, well, how does he know it means Amiel LEVIN to work hard? But a limud that Teira is in klal for mitzvahs. If it means learning Teira, it's a mitzvah. Leib doch wieder is shaila. If you're going to say it means learning Teira, the question comes back. He wouldn't have to tell us that harei mitzvahs kima mitzvah somor. He already said that you have to, the pasuk says to keep mitzvahs. Hamani mekayim b'chukosai teleicha. What is b'chukosai teleicha? So b'chukosai teleicha, just like we said before, it can't mean mitzvahs. It can't mean learning Teira either. Because learning Teira is a mitzvah. So it's included in mitzvahs atishmeru. The fun is Rashi Machriach, so Rashi says we have to say, Bechukosai teleicha mus meinen nit limadat Teira stam. The Bechukosai teleicha doesn't mean just to learn. But a prat neisev in limadat Teira, something extra in learning. Was in ken nit wissen von mitzvahs atishmeru, that we would not know that you have to do that from just the words mitzvahs that keep the mitzvahs. Weil eich on them prat is memekain the mitzvah from Talmud Teira. Must be something in learning Teira that if you wouldn't do that something, you still fulfill the mitzvah of learning Teira. Und das driktu is the word teleichu. And this, that there is something special in learning, some special way, is hinted in the word you shall go. Nicht stam tishmeru mekayim zayin. Learn Teira. It doesn't mean just stam you should learn Teira. That's a mitzvah tishmeru, and learning Teira is part of mitzvah tishmeru. It's telling you something else. You shall go in Bechukosai. And it means something extra in Teira, not just to learn Teira. And that's why it says teleicho, not just to keep. Tishmeru. Tishmeru means to keep. Because it's not stam. Because this is something that he's adding, that if you don't do it, you're not missing anything in the mitzvah. You still do the mitzvah of Teira. Something in the top of that. What is that? In was war an Eifen kemen meistens an limud dat Teira. Was sich andere so verfällt nicht in der Tishmeru, in Ki mitzvahs and Talmud Teira. What is it that you could add to learning Teira that if you don't have it, you're not missing, you're still doing the mitzvah of learning? Eben kamus, maybe it means learn more time. If it means just in quantity, how much you learn, in zugem zman in limud Teira, to add time in learning, it was als der selber Eifen Akim, the selber Tishmeru. It's not keeping the mitzvah more. It's all part of the same mitzvah. But dogmas, he gives an example. Ki mitzvahs v'hoilei sal yotas. The mitzvah putting on film. You should put on film on your hand. So das is a kurzer man, a länger man, whether you keep it out longer, you keep it out shorter. It says it shall be a sign on your hands. It has nothing to do with time. Time doesn't add something on top of the mitzvah. It's all part of the mitzvah. So the same thing, if you learn longer, you learn an hour, you learn 2 hours. It's all still part of being kind of the mitzvah of learning Torah. And here we're saying there's something that it's not part of the mitzvah, something on top of the mitzvah. We have to say, as was unterstreicht in Bechukosai teleichu. What does the Torah express by saying Bechukosai, which means Torah, as we said? Teleichu, you shall go, nit stam tishmeru, not just to keep. To add in the quality of learning Torah. Amelim b'Torah, horaven, to toil, to work hard, to go deeper in the Torah. But das wird nicht nichlel mitzvahs tishmeru. That's not included in keeping the mitzvahs. If you learn Torah without horaven, without working very hard, you also did the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So this is something on top of the mitzvah learning Torah. So that's why Rasha says it can't mean learning Torah here. I'm sorry, it can't mean doing mitzvahs because it says a mitzvah tishmeru. It can't mean learning Torah because it says it's mitzvah tishmeru, which is included. So it must mean something, and it uses the word telechu, go in it, continue, go further. So it must mean, Rasha says in Pshat, something within Torah which is more than the mitzvah, and that is Horav in the Torah, learning it more deeper, learning Horav and go deeper in the Horav in the Torah. Al Pizevet of Shveda Seder and Yonif and Posik. If that's the Pshat, then the Seder of the Posik is not understood. As mitzvah tishmurus kelotem kim for mitzvah stam and stam limud. We just said stam learning Torah is included in the words mitzvah tishmuru. So when it says mitzvah tishmuru, it means doing all the mitzvahs, including Pashat learning Torah. Lemigris means just to learn it, just to girsa, just to learn to know what you're saying, not going deep. So if it's mitzvah tishmuru includes learning Torah, the first level of learning Torah, but it's doch gedacht stehen in Pasuk früher, Bechukosai. So that should have been first before Bechukosai. That's how you learn. First you learn the thing just superficially, just learning what it says. And then you could work harder on it to learn deeper. You can't start learning by going deep into the inyonim. Before you got to first learn a simple pshat, then you could go further. So it should have been first with mitzvah tishmeru, which means doing the mitzvahs, including learning Torah, stam, and then the pasuk would say, and in addition to that, I want you to go more. Why does it say first and then keep the mitzvahs? And Rabbi explains. Volt men gelernt that the Teich from Bechukosai is limud Torah stam. If Bechukosai would mean stam learning. Mitzvah tishmeru is ma'isa mitzvahs. Mitzvah say means stam mitzvahs. Well, given moving for was besteht free Farbe mitzvah tishmeru. We understand why Bechukosai is written before keep the mitzvahs. If Bechukosai means Pashat learning Torah, while nor Talmud maybe lead the ma'isa. You can't know how to do mitzvahs if you don't learn Torah. So you got to first learn. As we understand simply. In order to know what to do, how to do, you got to learn first. Now that we're learning, means which means looking deeper into the Torah. You can't say, why does it say first? That this has to be first. You have to first learn the iyun in order to get to the mitzvahs. You can't say that. To know what to do, you don't have to learn deep in Torah almost. If you wissen dem din halacha lemaisa, in order to know what to do, is maspik limud lemigris in the sifra halacha. All you have to do is just read Shulchan Aruch, read the halacha, and you'll know what to do. So if the pasuk with me just learn Torah stam in Chanamet, first you learn, then you do. But we said that this doesn't mean just to learn. Learning is included in the mitzvahs. That's mitzvah tishmeru. Bechukosai means work hard. So why is that written first? You don't first learn the iyun, learn ba'amelim, and then you do the mitzvahs up the mitzvah Talmud Torah, just learning. So therefore Rasha comes and says, when it says mitzvah tishmeru, it's not just tam mitzvahs. It's a prat in the Torah. The Torah tells you first, horavin Torah. And something within your horavanya, in your learning of Torah, is that mitzvah tishmeru. What is that? As neat plays the limud lemikras darzayim de kavon lishmer velakayim. It doesn't just mean that when you learn stam Torah, just superficially, so in order you should know what to do. Even when you're horavin Torah, you have to have a mind that you're doing it in order to keep the mitzvahs. That you have to want to go deeper, so you should be able to keep the mitzvahs better. And that then brings Rasha. Rasha says, Mishnemer, like it says, learn them and keep to do, which means that first you learn, then you keep. What we said before, it seems like it's not like that. Only the girsa, only learn superficially is first and then you do. But learning Amelim, the Torah is not. But the Torah doesn't say that. It says learn it, bli chiluk. It says learn Torah, and it doesn't say in what level. Learn Torah, including the going deep into the Torah, that also should be in order to do. So now we understand the Seder of the Pasuk. Bechukosai means definitely horavin in Torah, And that should be almanas that you should be able to do the mitzvahs properly. Well, if he's moving for that, we understand that. Das was Rasha zogt have a medel betera. Negate to mitzvah tishmeru. When the Rasha says that when it says mitzvah tishmeru means you should learn Torah, a melim betera, in order to keep, is considered to them as zogt free as mitzvah tishmeru main kima mitzvahs. One of the kasha he has before. First Rasha says that mitzvah tishmeru means what you're doing mitzvahs. Then Rasha says later, no. Seems like he says different. That a mitzvah tishmeru doesn't mean doing mitzvahs. It goes by hemshad. You should learn the Torah in order to do amnas to do the mitzvahs. So it doesn't talk about mitzvahs, but now we understand. By Rasha's pirush do is nitev divert of mitzvah tishmeru. When Rasha says you should learn Torah, amelim b'Torah, in order to do, is not explaining what this mitzvah tishmeru means. Nor eifim b'chukosai telecho. He says it l'gabe b'chukosai telecho, meaning like this. Frier fartach Rasha divert alei. First Rasha says what the words themselves mean. As a meinish eti amelim b'Torah. He says, "Im b'chukosai telecho" means horav in Torah, work hard in Torah, toil in Torah. And then he says the tam for vozeh shtei farvetz mitzvah tishmeru. Then Rashi gives something else. He says that you should learn almanas to do. That's to answer a kasha. Why is b'chukosai telecho, which means to work hard in Torah, written before mitzvah tishmeru? So the answer is, while there are amelim b'Torah, there zayin almanas lishmer v'lasis. That the amelim b'Torah, the heart of it has to be in order to do. But the mere taich of mitzvah tishmeru, Rasha didn't change. But mitzvah tishmeru means keep mitzvahs. But then, the fact that the posuk says before that is adding another nakuda, that even the amelim b'Torah has to be amanas to do. So there's two things the posuk is telling us. But that's just to answer the seder of the posuk. But the words themselves, Rasha didn't change. It means that you should keep mitzvahs. But we have to understand from Loshen Rasha Yochel Zekima Mitzvahs is Muchach, from the words of Rasha that he says right in the beginning of the piece of Rasha, that mitzvahs, I would think this is Kima Mitzvahs. So from that shows as bepashtes, like we said in the beginning, the bepashtes we should have learned that b'chukosai is mitzvahs. So b'chukosai b'teleicho means you shall keep the mitzvahs. Nor mitzadam hechlef narekim mitzvahs over, but because the Rasha says that the Torah tells you already to keep mitzvahs, in the weite die gewerte mitzvah tishmeru, and the words further, mitzvah tishmeru muz melernen at the pirush from b'chukosai telecho is amelim b'Torah. So we must learn that b'chukosai telecho means amelim b'Torah. But if not for that raya, b'chukosai telecho would have touched men to keep mitzvahs. It's not moving. It's not understood. In other words, why would we even think that b'chukosai means mitzvahs? If it means mitzvahs, we got a problem. As doch Yedua, we know as the mitzvahs and Yedua Kama Sugim. We know mitzvahs, there are different categories. Eidus, Chukim, and Mishpatim. What are the difference? So we know that Eidus are those mitzvahs that have a reason. It's not that without the Eibishter giving us the mitzvah, we would have kept it. But after the Eibishter told us to do the mitzvah, we have a reason for it. Like Shabbos. Tefillin, Shabbos is easy. Mitzrayim. Tefillin, whatever. Mishpatim are mitzvahs that if the Torah Chas v'Sholem wouldn't have been given, we'd do it ourselves. It's al pi seichel. Chukim are those mitzvahs that have no explanation. And he says, the chsuk chukim is the mitzvahs v'chavanim gzeiras hamela. The category of chukim are mitzvahs that is a decree of Hashem. The Rasha Shapiro, Mefarish bin the Parashas Acher, Rasha said it already earlier. The Baal Dazeh, since the word chukim only refers to a certain type of mitzvahs, still to the Shaila comes the question. We could learn maybe the word b'chukosai means mitzvahs, but not all mitzvahs. B'chukosai means the mitzvahs which are chukim. Because I know hecher from seichel, which is beyond seichel. Like a lot of times in Torah, whenever it says the word chukah, it means the mitzvah that doesn't have an explanation. And the mitzvah tishmeru means the other mitzvahs. In other words, Rasha says we must say b'chukosai telecho here doesn't mean simply mitzvahs, because it says already mitzvahs. But be'emes it's not a good raya, because b'chukosai is only one kind of mitzvahs. So maybe that's what the pasuk says. B'chukosai telecho, you do my chukim, and then he continues. It's mitzvah tishmeru, and you should do the other mitzvahs also. So what's the raya? B'chukosai telecho means horav in Torah. So the pashas can answer. Pashas you could say. Azay mit dem Wort mitzvah says the pasuk is not ein Sug für Mishpatim. If the word mitzvah taka doesn't mean the word chukesem is chukim, and the word mitzvah is the other mitzvahs, mishpatim. Well, the nidvan nutam loshem mitzvahs. You could say that no, doesn't make sense. The Torah would not use the word mitzvahs, which is Hashem Kelof al ala mitzvahs, which is the general title for all the mitzvahs. Wouldn't use that. If he means v'dafke mishpatim, not all the mitzvahs, he would use the Nodem Loshem mishpatim, my mishpatim. As even we find this in Pasuk, we find it in a Pasuk where it says, Eila hachukim v'mishpatim. It's also in this parsha. Eila hachukim v'mishpatim v'ateiras. These are the chukim, the mishpatim, and the teiras. So what do we see here? If the Torah wants to tell us different categories of mitzvahs, ruft on dem Sug mitzvahs, später mit dem Shem Protim Mishpatim. This kind of mitzvahs, which is not chukim, he calls it with a separate name. It says chukim v'mishpatim. Und nicht mit Namen mitzvahs tam. It doesn't just call it with name mitzvahs. Und wie bald do sagt der Posek dem Loshem mitzvahs. But here the Torah says mitzvahs. He said, yes, I meant all the mitzvahs. Prove that it means all the mitzvahs. So the Chura, you could answer why we can't learn that Bechukosai means mitzvahs. It says already later mitzvahs at the Schapiro. So we say maybe this means the other mitzvahs. So the Chura, you could answer that it can't be that. That Bechukosai means chukim, mitzvahs means mishpatim, because if the Torah would mean that after it says the word Bechukosai chukim, it would use the word mishpatim. It wouldn't use the word mitzvahs because mitzvahs is too general, it includes everything, not only mishpatim. So l'chura, you could answer why we cannot learn Bechukosai means chukim. So but l'chura nit teretz masfik. It's not enough teretz. From a gefindt na friedige nord with the posik till vernannt the mitzvah l'sugayim. We have another posik earlier where the Torah does divide the mitzvahs into categories, and Parsha tells this, and there it says, Eikev Hashashoma Avram Bekeli, because Avram listened to my voice, Vayishmer Mishmarti, and he kept my laws, Mitzvahsai, Chukosai V'Sereisai. So there he uses the word chukim, chukosai, and for the others he uses the word mitzvah. We just said that it can be that mitzvah should only mean mishpatim because mitzvah is a general term for everything, not just for a certain category of mishpatim. But there we see it is. He says chukosai and he says separately mitzvah. And Rashi is not mafarish, and Rashi explains mitzvah means dvarim shilulei nichtavu rois. They wouldn't be written. It would be fitting anyway to be commanded. But das meint mishpatim. So Rashi says over there, the word mitzvah means mishpatim. And chukosai means dvarim sheyitzahara vu mesayel mashim naleim, things that the yitzahara and the goyim always ask, what kind of sense does it make? It doesn't make sense. That's chukim. And then Rashi says, v'sei reisoy, and my toireis, lo v'teire shebal peh. Also as Avram kept teire shebal peh. But today say Lashon Rabbi meint teire shebiksav and teire shebal peh. Since it says plural, it means both. But what do we see here? Zetten von them, as I feel when the posik zog dem Loshem mitzvah stam, that even when the Pasuk says the word mitzvah stam, Yibal derechen dabei chukim, since he mentions chukim separately, and then he says mitzvahs, meint mit beide l'shein zwei sugim mitzvahs. So chukim and mitzvahs mean two categories. Mitzvahs mean mishpatim and chukim are chukim. So we find that we could use the mitzvahs for mishpatim. So we're back to the question, hotten doch azay, ich can't einlernen, aber nidden die dan. So b'meila we can learn the same thing here. What makes Rashi say that it can't, Chukosai can't be mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are written, mitzvahsai, tishmeru afterwards, that's not ayah. Because you could say, Chukosai means chukim, and mitzvahsai means mishpatim. Mitzvahsai is a general term, but why would we use the Loshem mitzvahsai only on a specific category of mishpatim? So the Rebbe says, we see that in a different posik. In the posik over there, Pasha tells us, it says, mitzvahsai, Chukosai, and Chukosai is separate, and mitzvahsai means mishpatim, like Rashi says. So why can't we learn it here? Is a beer and the explanation is like this. The word mitzvah is Meloshen Tzivui. The word mitzvah means commandment. It is an Tzivuyim from the Eibishter. The Eibishter commanded us to do. Is moving that the nomen do is massam blaze in the gate, the mitzvahs from Noch Matan Torah. That this word mitzvah side to mean mitzvahs could only be after Matan Torah. Was damals the Eibishter gesagt alle mitzvahs, and the Eibishter commanded us. Aber Fadem Tzivui von Eibishter bei Matan Torah, before Hashem commanded us by Matan Torah, is doch bei Sug mitzvahs, of welchem man sagt, Asher Shoma Avram. So when we come to mitzvahs, that it says Avram listened to them, how could the Pasuk even use mitzvahs? The word mitzvahs. Mitzvahs means commandment. Avram wasn't commanded. Die gewendete Tzivui, der Mitzvah is from Tzivui. There is no Tzivui. So when it says the Pasuk, it says Chukosai and Mitzvahsai, and Chukosai means Chukim, and Mitzvahsai means Mishpatim. There is a problem. How could the Torah B'chal use the word mitzvahs? Kommt der Chois, der Losche mit Zweise, versteht bei Avraham Avinu, vor Matan Torah, when it says by Avraham Avinu, before Matan Torah, the word mitzvahs can it mean in Meloshin Tzivi HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Can't mean the Deibishter commanded it. The Baal Kanal said, "Doch given far mas man Tzivit," is before the Tzivi was given. So over there, we have to learn a different shot. The pasuk that we brought by Avraham is different. The Riber Musman dort lernen as mitzvah say main dinyoni vel chazayne rui and leit stav is demot shinapi seichel. It means there we have a raya that it means mishpati. Generally, mitzvah means commandment. Commandment includes all. You can't say commandment means dafke mishpati. By Avraham Avinu, when it says mitzvahs, it means dafke mishpati because it can't mean commandment. It means those things that would have been fit to command then. What are they? Which things would be fit then before Matan Torah? Sie werden angerufen mit Nomen Mitzvahs, der Farbe Seichelische Mitzav sei. It doesn't mean commanded of Deibishter. These are things that you could have been, you are commanded then. Commanded means what over there? Who commanded? Something that you understand with Seichel that you have to do. That means your Seichel commands it. So over there, Mitzvahs taka means Mishpatim. That's only over there before Matan Torah because it can't mean all the mitzvahs. So it has to mean the kind of mitzvahs, like Rashi uses Loshe, Rui and Leit Stavis. They weren't commanded, but it fits to do it. To fits to be commanded. Why does it fit to be commanded? The Eibush didn't command it. Because Al Pesachel you should do it. Schenke the Loshe mitzvahs but needn't down, but the Loshe mitzvahs which is by us. But state noch Matan Torah, which is written after Matan Torah, which the Eibush commanded us. Well, that the Loshe mitzvahs like sich auf alle mitzvahs, since the word mitzvahs would apply to all the mitzvahs, well, they seien alle Zivugim for the Eibush, because they're all commanded of the Eibush. Is the Eibush schwer zu eintauschen? It's very hard to say, as a mit is a Sheilel Bechukosai, the state in the Pasuk, because I and you can't say that the word mitzvah in the Pasuk, El Bechukosai, and then mitzvah tishmaru, since mitzvah means commandment, and after Matan Torah it's a real commandment, so you can't say it means one category, and not chukim. Chukim separate, the mitzvahs means mishpatim. Chukim are also mitzvahs. Chukim are also commanded by the Meibish. So you can't say it means not chukim, which is also a commandment, und wer gemeint leist es chukim mishpatim, means only mishpatim. So in the case after Matan Torah, when it says mitzvahs cannot mean dafke a certain type of mitzvahs. And chukim is a different type. As if saying chukim is not a mitzvah, it's also a commandment. So then, if it says after Matan Torah, chukim and mitzvahs, but darf lernen as mitzvahs sei tishmeru, geht auf alle mitzvahs. You can't say mitzvahs goes on only mishpatim. Now, if we come that mitzvahs must mean all the mitzvahs, that's the pshat. But the chamela darf nonem and bechukosai teleicho meint amela b'teira. So bechukosai teleicho doesn't mean mitzvahs, means teira. Because the kasha was maybe it means mitzvahs. It says mitzvahs sei tishmeru. Chukim bechukosai is chukim. Mitzvahs is mishpatim. But we have explained that mitzvah you can't say only mishpatim. Mitzvah means commandments, as if chukim is not a commandment. So therefore, we have to say mitzvah means all the mitzvahs. Oh, so now Rasha has a good kasha. Mitzvah means all the mitzvahs. So what does it mean? You should go into chukim, which is also part of mitzvahs. It's included in the word mitzvah. That's what Rasha says. This is to teach us a male and potato. You should work hard in potato. This is all the pshat. The beer b'chol anal b'pnimi senyonim. To explain this all. Al Pichsidis and Pnimi Senyonim. So the Rebbe says like this. Hagam as Rashas Hechrech as im Chukosai Teleicho meint amelim b'Torah is not for Loshem b'Chukosai Gufa. Even though we explained till now and we see in Rasha that what made Rasha say b'Chukosai does not mean in mitzvahs, but the Chukosai means to work hard in Torah is not. Rasha is not forced to say that because from the word b'Chukosai it seems to say that the word b'Chukosai itself doesn't mean that. What made Rasha say it? From weiter. From something else, from further, because it says, because it says already Kima mitzvahs further, so it can't mean. So it's a raya not from the word Bechukosai. Now the word Bechukosai has no connection, seemingly, derech hapshat, to the union of Amel b'Torah. It's just because the hemshech doesn't fit, so we are forced to say it means Amel b'Torah. But it's not from the word Bechukosai. Von deswegen, nevertheless, darf man sagen, we have to say, der Inje von Amel b'Torah is menumet eich in the word. In the we do have to say that this idea that Bechukosai means Haravan and Torah, working hard in Torah, is hinted in the word, comes from the word Bechukosai. But why must we say that? Maybe not. Maybe it's only from something else. So the Rebbe says in brackets, Torah is light. Everything in Torah is light. It lights up everything. Und das Menke moving, as Teire, weil Lachas Kommentare ist geschrieben geworden, in an Eid, der Teichen nach Kosovo sein sich. The Teire was written in such a way. Could everyone mute yourself? Could everyone mute themselves, please? Making noise. So the Torah was written in a clear way. What does it mean in lichtige way, in a light way, in a clear way? Eib the word Bechukosai, well, clown mit gewiesen of Torah, nor of mitzvahs. The Bechukosai in itself has nothing to do with the word, but only with mitzvahs. Well, dann, anstatt of Loshim Bechukosai, gestanden mit Torah. Instead of Bechukosai with the Torah. Or the Bechukosai. In other words, why wouldn't it say Torah? Why doesn't it say Torah? But Riktu is called a Mechut Torah, what mean Torah? Could you please mute yourself, please? But since the Torah chose the word Bechukosai, is muchach as dafke in the loshen is mutkish the rinya from the Amiel LEVIN. Yes, must be that in this loshen is hinted. The word Bechukosai shows that this is not stam Torah, horaven in Torah. How does it got to do with the word Bechukosai? So verstehen wir, the loshen Bechukosai when it's read by nutzt in the Torah. Driktu is the meaning of the Torah to show how the words Bechukosai, when it refers to Torah, it doesn't mean only stam refers to Torah, but horaven in Torah. Darf man früher Masber sein, a prat in dem Teichen von Teach Chukim, was wird benutzt bescheiches mitzvahs. Let's first explain what is the pshat that when certain mitzvahs are called Chukim. Why? Why are they called Chukim? So the Rebbe says like this: since you do as chutz the name mitzvahs, was is Hashem quality for all the mitzvahs canal, but yet the suge mitzvahs have besonder Namen. We know that besides the word mitzvahs, which is a general title for all mitzvahs, there are categories of mitzvahs with separate titles. There are edis. This is, as we said before, Eides, Mishpatim, and Chukim. Eides is the sug mitzvahs, bezogen Eides of gewisse Inyonim. Eides are such mitzvahs that we have a reason why we do it, and they are testimony on certain things. Like Bria Shemayim V'Oretz, if you see as Mitzrayim, the creation of the world, and you see as Mitzrayim, Shabbos. Shabbos is a testimony for the Hashem creating the world. Film is a testimony of Yitzias Mitzrayim, Ukadem is similar. That's Eides. Mishpatim, seine Kelo, die Mitzvahs, was Mole nicht nur Teire, wollten sie allein verstanden durch Mishpat Sichli. Mishpatim are those mitzvahs, if the Teire wouldn't have been given, we would understand in themselves. From Seichel, from logic. Chukim, seine die Mitzvahs, welche seinen Durchuis Gzeres Amelech. Chukim are those mitzvahs, is purely a decree of the king. Sie haben nicht genort in Seichel, nicht als Mishpatim und nicht als Eides. There's no place in Seichel, not as like Mishpatim and not like Eides. But in Yonim is Gzeira Gazarti Chukim Chakak. Hashem says, I made a Gzeira, this is what I said, and that's what you have to keep. Now, so what's the expression we use for chukim that we don't understand, that has beyond seichel? The word chukah. In Loshen HaKodesh, was is nitken Loshen HaSkomi, Loshen HaKodesh is not a Loshen that people decided. Every other language came from the people. Why is a table called a table? That's how it came out. People decided or got used to using the word table, so it became a table. Loshen Kodesh, it's not like that. It's not a made-up Loshen. Loshen Kodesh is the Eibish's Loshen. Everything bediak, anything that has a certain title, it's exacted. Is the mitzvahs since the mitzvahs that don't have a place in seichel are called chukim, was loshen chukah hat them uptaish from chakika. The word chukah has another meaning, carving. There is mavayil in Kutayra and the word Bechukosai. He says in Kutayra the word Bechukosai comes from the word chakika, carving. So since those mitzvahs that are beyond seichel are called chukim, which means carving, darf man sagen, we have to say, there must be some connection between the concept of chukim, which is beyond seichel, with carving. What does it got to do with carving? The explanation is like this. The klolos dike Unterschied zwischen Meleches Achkike and Ksive is in them. What's the general difference between writing and carving out? So in other places, we have a different inyan, the difference in writing and carving. Writing, the words are a separate entity. You take ink and put it on the. This is from the stone itself. But here the Rebbe says another word. When you carve, you have to work harder than when you just write. And he says like this: Dibur is blaze maisezut. Let's go like this. To speak is called maise. The Gemara says it's also called, but it's maisezut. It's a small maise. Ksive is a maise sholem. Writing is a complete maise. Aber doch darf man bei Ksiva nicht haben, als viel Keach und Anstrengung wie bei Chike. You don't have to work so hard when you write. You're doing something, not as hard as carving. The meat is moving. Now we understand for the mitzvahs when a blaze gzeres hamela, those mitzvahs which only because Hashem said so, they're non-gerufen chukim in lashon chike are called chukim from the lashon of carving. Why? While the kiyum from azach was legt sich nicht in seichel, bis so hepech seichel is not the kosher. To do something that you don't understand, something that makes no sense, is a hard job. Asach shvere with the kiyum from azach was seichel, much harder than to do something that makes sense. So therefore, the chukim is the Hebrew word for mitzvahs that don't make sense. It's chukah, hakika. That means work hard. When you do it, you'll work harder. Now, if we're using the word bechukosai not on mitzvahs but on Torah, it's a word that tells you got to work hard in Torah. That when you use the word bechukosai by Torah, meint nicht limited Torah stam. It doesn't mean just learning. They're all Torah. It means to work hard in Torah. That's what it means. The word chukah means to work hard. So that's the Rebbe said. What's the connection between the word bechukosai? It must be in the word bechukosai lies learning hard Torah. Yes, chukah is a hard job. If someone learns Torah with toil, with our hard work of chukah, fehlt es a chukah in hearts mit dem Leben der Torah. Then the Rebbe adds another word. It causes a carving out in the heart of the one that learns it. It's not only the seichel is working hard, it penetrates much deeper into the person. As I feel him and Leib, he uses that word just even if your heart is like a stone, because carving is in a stone. Is eber horbet in Torah, if you work hard in Torah, wird sein versteinet the hearts. So then your heart of stone will become durchgekritzt und durchgerieben durch dem Amiel Torah. Your heart will become carved out and rubbed out with the Amiel Torah. And he quotes the pasuk, Avon Shoch Kamayim, it says in Novus Deribnosen, that water, negate Bakiva, that what did he see? He saw water dripping and carved out the stone because it goes constantly. So the same thing here, if you work hard and you work in a form of carving that you work hard in learning Torah, it'll, like carving, which is hard, it'll carve out a heart, it'll penetrate and carve into your hearts. In Torah, in Torah, everything is exact. Now we see that the learning Torah, not stam, in Torah, working hard in Torah is used the lashon chukah. The same expression that we use by mitzvahs, which is beyond seichel, which is called a chukah. So here in this pasuk, learning Torah, Amiel Torah is also used the same word chukah, and the same word as we use by regular chukim. Yes, gufa. That proves the reason why working hard on Torah is called chukah is not blazing sadevas is an aveta kosher canal. It's not only like we said before, just like carving is hard. Learning Torah, Amiel Torah is also hard. You have to work hard in Torah. It's not only for that. Nor eich mit sadevas der Amiel Torah is verbunden mit l'mayla and aseichel. Amiel working hard is connected to l'mayla and aseichel. See, I'll tell you what Rebbe doesn't say, but if you just connect, why is learning Amiel Torah the same word as chukah? Because chukah is hard and Amiel Torah is hard. But carving is not the only hard thing that exists. So why pick carving? Could have picked something other hard work and say that that's the name for Amiel Torah because it's hard. There must be something in mitzvahs which are called chukim, legabe the inyan of working hard. The Amiel Torah, working hard in Torah, is verbunden with the Mayim and Seichel, is connected to the inyan of a chukah, which is higher than Seichel. How is it? Probably know when you learn Torah Sheval Peh, you have to understand. Wenn man versteht nicht, was man lernt, kann man auf dem Gebroch nicht machen. The din is, if you don't understand Torah Sheval Peh that you learn, you can't make a brocha. Is there Amiel Torah verbunden mit the Mayim and Seichel? So how could you say when you learn Torah Le'iyun, Amiel Torah is learning Le'iyun, and that means understanding, using your seichel to understand it deeper. What's the connection between those mitzvahs which are l'mayla and seichel? We just said that Amiel Torah has some connection. It's called chukah to the mitzvahs which are beyond seichel. But it's not like that. Learning Torah is dafke with seichel, and if you don't understand, you're not yetzer. V'adarabbe, In Bechukosai Shalamayim and Aseichel Drik Sechuis der Amiel LEVIN. No, I just skipped it. Afal Pekin, he says, nevertheless, is there Amal Teira verbunden mit Mayim? No, Amal Teira is connected. Working in Teira with Teira is Seichel. It's connected to the Mayim. Another Rabbi. Dafke in Bechukosai Shalamayim and Aseichel Drik Sechuis der Amiel LEVIN. Dafke, when you come to those mitzvahs which are beyond Seichel, there you see the working hard in Teira. How is that? And this is in Sveinyan in two ways. Number one, they're Amal B'Teira, they're Zayin Meravias Leiks in Seichel. Number one, you have to understand what Seichel. But you have to work harder than your seichel dictates you to work. If a person understands, I'm able to work on such a level. And if you work hard, but as much as your seichel tells you you could work, it's not omo yet. Omo means you got to go work more than your seichel tells you. That's the connection between omo teira to the mayim and seichel. And the second thing, the omo b'teira, if you work hard in Teira, bring them to the Hanocha v'Asoge as Eich Dinyone v'Elchef Hashteit Yah b'Sichel Zayin Nemes Nechav v'Asoge. When you will really work hard in Teira, know what you'll reach? You'll reach to realize that what you understand is not the real understanding. Really, Teira has more than you understand. It says in different places, the tachlis, the goal of knowledge is to not come to a point where you know that you don't know. That you don't know the Eibishter. So Zevidas is negates the Eibishter, just like Abba Eibishter, the tachlis of knowing the Eibishter, to realize the greatness of the Eibishter is to come to a conclusion that you don't really know him. Same way, Al Derech says negate Teira Chachmasa is Barach. Same thing as Teira. Teira is the Eibishter's Chachmah. But who Chachmasa Yechat Mechkas Varambam? Teira and the Eibishter are one. So just like in the Eibishter, the tachlis is not to know. You come to realize that you don't know him. The tachlis you learn Teira is to come to realize that too. The Melech Kishem She'ein b'Yechela Shum Seichel Nivra L'Hasik Beirei, just like no Nivra could grasp the Creator, Kachen Yochel L'Hasik Chachmosei. You can't grasp his Chachmah. Ukashanemer it says V'nei Loma Me'ein Kol Chai. It says the Teira is hidden from the eyes of anyone. You can't see it. You can't know it. So the tachlis of Omer B'Teira is to come to a conclusion that the more you learn and the deeper you learn, the more you realize that you don't know. Is Eber meant as a tachlis idea Teira. If someone learns Teira and thinks that, oh, now I really understand the Teira, he says, Abavais as by him fell the Omer B'Teira. That shows that he's missing the Omer B'Teira. Because if you have real Omer, you come to the real conclusion. Like the Friedrich Rebbe says, even things he understands are really chukim. The tachlis is to come to understand. So this we see the connection between the word Bechukosai by chukim and which chukim u'maylam and aseichel, and by harav and Teira, which seems to be opposites. Harav and Teira is trying to understand. Chukim is not understanding. Says no, they're not opposites. Number one, you have to work hard beyond what your seichel dictates. But besides that, the main thing is that when you understand, you will come to, if you really work hard in the understanding, you realize that you really don't understand. And if you don't come to that conclusion, you know you didn't really work hard. This explains why when it comes to learning Teira, he uses the word Bechukosai. When he says Bechukosai means Teira, it doesn't mean to learn all about Chukim. It means learn anything in Teira. Not only Chukim. Learn Eidos and Mishpatim. So why does he use the word Bechukosai by Omer B'Teira? Omer B'Teira kommt man zu der Akora, Seich Mishpatim seine Chukim. When you Omer B'Teira, you come to a conclusion that all mitzvahs are really Chukim, that you don't understand them. Even though you think this mitzvah, oh, I went deep and I understand all the details. But if you really work deep, you come to say, but Sof Kol Sof, I don't understand because it's beyond understanding. The Rebbe says in one place, why is there's one mitzvah that completely makes no sense. No one has said mitzvahs of Paraduma. And the Pasuk says, Zeis HaTeira. The Pasuk says, Zeis Chukas HaTeira. To teach you that if there wouldn't be Chukim, we would think the Teira is understood. The Teira gave us Chukim to show that Sof Kol Sof, it's David's Teira, and we can't understand. So some we don't understand at all. But those that you do understand, if you really work hard, you'll come to realize that you don't understand it. Not a simple sikha, but it has to be done. People have to really chazer it over. I look at it, then it'll get much more absorbed.
The sikha is really chukah. The sikh itself is a chukah. You
Chukah.
have to work on it.
Work on it, yes.
Yeah,
And you have to be
shkoyach.
humble. You have to work
Humble.
on the Eifa Shalom, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Koyach.